Have you ever noticed how some people seem to move through life with an unusual sense of ease, as if they've discovered a quieter path through reality itself? While you're steadily working toward your goals, setting intentions, using affirmations, and doing everything you've been taught, someone else appears to experience progress almost effortlessly. What takes years for many seems to unfold for them in a matter of weeks. It can be puzzling, even discouraging at times. They don't necessarily work harder, and they may not be more talented or better connected. Yet opportunities seem to meet them naturally, like a river flowing toward the sea, while you may feel as though you're pushing against an unseen current. What if this difference isn't about luck, privilege, or chance at all? What if what you're observing is the result of a particular mental state, one that most people are never taught to recognize? Not because it's secret or exclusive, but because we've been conditioned to search for change in the wrong place. Many of us have learned to think of manifestation as something we do, repeating certain words, visualizing more intensely, trying to feel positive at all times, surrounding ourselves with symbols of success. And while these practices can be helpful, countless people find themselves feeling drained by them, stuck in a slow, linear experience where progress feels distant and effort-heavy. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. You follow the recommended steps, you commit to the morning routine, you journal gratitude, you affirm abundance. And yet, despite all the effort, something still feels out of alignment, as if the deeper shift you're seeking hasn't quite arrived yet. Yet when you look honestly at your everyday life, when you pay attention to the results you can actually see, reality can feel strangely unmoved by all the effort you're putting in. The gap between what you're doing and what you're experiencing can quietly wear on you, creating a sense of discouragement that often goes unspoken. Before we go deeper, take a moment to gently support the channel by tapping the like button, and feel free to share where you're watching from. It's always meaningful to see people joining from different parts of the world. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you can stay connected with future videos. Now, here's something many people never quite realize about how reality works. Beneath our everyday thoughts and conscious intentions, there is a subtle mental state, a kind of inner frequency, that operates quietly in the background. This state doesn't simply draw things toward you. It influences how quickly and naturally your inner intentions translate into real-world experiences. This idea isn't just symbolic or abstract. It connects closely to what Carl Jung, one of psychology's most insightful thinkers, devoted much of his life to understanding: a deeper layer of shared consciousness that extends beyond the personal mind. Within it exist patterns and possibilities that gently shape how events unfold in the outer world. Stay with me for a moment, because this perspective can feel surprisingly familiar once you sense it. When you begin to align with this deeper level of awareness, something subtle yet meaningful starts to shift. What once felt like rare coincidence begins to feel more like quiet alignment, and moments of synchronicity begin to appear with greater ease. Often, the right information seems to arrive at just the right moment. People enter your life when their presence matters most. Challenges that once felt immovable begin to loosen, sometimes without the struggle you expected. Even time can feel different, as though it's responding more gently to your intentions. This is the mental state that gradually reshapes how reality is experienced, and learning to recognize it can quietly change everything. I'd like to go a little deeper here, because there's a subtle insight that can transform how you approach your own growth. Psychiatrist David Hawkins spent many years exploring what he called the levels of consciousness, and what he found offers a helpful way to understand our inner world. According to his work, emotions aren't random or meaningless. They act more like signals, offering feedback about where your inner state is at any given moment. You can think of them as a dashboard, gently reflecting what's happening beneath the surface. At the lower end of this spectrum are heavier emotional states such as shame, guilt, apathy, and grief. When someone spends a lot of time here, it's not just that they feel discouraged. Their entire view of reality becomes shaped by that emotional weight. Opportunities and solutions may still exist, but they're harder to recognize, almost as if the mind is filtering them out. In this state, positive thinking alone often feels ineffective, not because effort is lacking, but because the deeper emotional tone hasn't yet shifted. This is where meaningful change becomes possible. Hawkins described courage as a turning point, a gentle but powerful threshold. Below it, life can feel like constant reaction and self-protection, as though the world is something to endure. Above it, a different quality of experience emerges. You begin to participate more consciously in your life, responding with intention rather than feeling pushed around by circumstances. This doesn't mean fear disappears. It means fear no longer runs the show. If you find this perspective helpful, consider subscribing. Each video here is meant to offer grounded insights, not just ideas to think about, but perspectives you can apply in real life. And this leads to an insight that many people find surprisingly freeing. Much of the good vibes-only approach that's popular in personal development can unintentionally keep people stuck. By encouraging the avoidance of uncomfortable emotions, it can prevent the deeper shifts that actually allow growth to unfold naturally and sustainably. Take a moment to reflect on this. When we adopt the belief that we must feel positive all the time in order to stay high vibration, we place ourselves under an impossible expectation. And when feelings like sadness, anger, or fear naturally arise, as they do for everyone, we often add another layer on top of them. Guilt for feeling the way we do, shame for not being positive enough, frustration for struggling with something that's been made to seem simple. It's often this resistance, the quiet inner tension we create by pushing against our own human experience, that weighs us down, not the original emotion itself. Our deeper state isn't defined by passing feelings. It's shaped by something more subtle and enduring, the underlying beliefs, assumptions, and sense of identity we carry, often without realizing how much they influence us. These inner patterns quietly shape how we interpret the world and how reality seems to respond to us. If this perspective resonates, feel free to share. I see the pattern in the comments. Not as a declaration of having everything figured out, but as a moment of recognition, of noticing how this understanding can gently reframe the path you've been on. So if it isn't about forcing ourselves into constant positivity, what does allow access to a more aligned mental state? This is where a deeper kind of self-honesty becomes important. Not harsh self-criticism, but a sincere willingness to look inward with curiosity and openness, even when what we find there feels uncomfortable at first. A meaningful first step in any real transformation is simply recognizing where you are right now, not where you wish you were, or where you feel you should be, or even how you present yourself to the world, but where you are in this moment beneath the stories you tell yourself. This kind of awareness isn't about judgment. It's about honesty, approached with kindness. What we're exploring goes beyond labeling emotions as good or bad. It's about noticing the quieter patterns, the automatic reactions, the familiar ways of interpreting events, the deeply rooted perspectives that have been guiding your life in the background, much like software running without your awareness. Each response you have to a challenge offers gentle insight into your current inner state. When something doesn't go as planned, what tends to arise first? A search for blame or a curiosity about what might be learned? When an unexpected opportunity appears, do you feel open to receiving it, or does a subtle doubt surface, suggesting it may not really be meant for you? These responses aren't flaws or fixed traits. They're simply signals, reflecting the beliefs and expectations shaping your experience. Your sense of what's possible, your beliefs about your own capabilities, and your expectations of life quietly influence your reality far more than repeated affirmations ever could. Until these underlying patterns are seen and understood, change can feel difficult, like trying to create something new while using the same inner blueprint. There's another gentle truth worth remembering on this path. Life doesn't move in a straight line toward constant happiness, Everything unfolds in rhythms and cycles. The seasons change, the tides shift, and light gives way to darkness before returning again. This movement is natural. Trying to remain in a state of constant positivity often creates tension, not harmony. True inner alignment isn't about rejecting difficult emotions. It's about developing the capacity to experience them without becoming overwhelmed or defined by them. When you can notice anger and say, "Anger is present," rather than "I am angry," something subtle but powerful happens. You step into the role of the observer. That witnessing awareness naturally carries a steadier, more expansive quality, one that exists beyond any single emotion, whether pleasant or uncomfortable. If this perspective is beginning to resonate, you're welcome to leave a comment saying, "I am the observer," not as a declaration of certainty, but as a quiet acknowledgement of how this shift in awareness can change your relationship with your own experience and with the reality you're shaping. Now let's gently connect everything we've been exploring with what's happening in your brain, your body, and the subtle systems that support perception when this shift takes place. What's especially fascinating is that these ideas aren't limited to philosophy or spiritual traditions. In many ways, modern science is beginning to echo insights that ancient wisdom has pointed toward for centuries. When these perspectives are viewed together, they offer a deeper, more grounded understanding of change. In physics, our understanding of reality has evolved significantly over time. At the most fundamental levels, what appears solid and fixed is better described as dynamic patterns of energy and information. The objects around you, the chair, the screen, even your body, are not as static as they seem. At a microscopic level, they're in constant motion, interacting within a vast field of energy. Another intriguing aspect of this is the limits of human perception. Our senses allow us to experience only a small portion of what exists. We perceive a narrow range of the electromagnetic spectrum, which suggests that much of reality operates beyond what we can directly see or feel. This isn't meant to feel mysterious or mystical. It's simply a reminder that our experience of the world is partial, shaped by the tools we use to perceive it. From this viewpoint, expanding awareness doesn't mean escaping reality. It means becoming more attuned to it. When you step into the observer perspective, you're not changing the world so much as changing how you relate to it, becoming sensitive to patterns and possibilities that may have gone unnoticed before. And there's more to explore here. Neuroscience is continuing to reveal meaningful connections between awareness, perception, and the body, offering insights into how shifts in consciousness can influence both experience and biology in subtle but powerful ways. Your thoughts and emotions aren't just fleeting inner experiences. Over time, they influence how your brain adapts and responds, shaping neural pathways by strengthening some connections while allowing others to soften. Research in neuroscience and epigenetics suggests that our inner states and repeated patterns can even play a role in how certain genetic expressions are activated or quieted. In this way, awareness becomes a quiet but powerful force for change. Each time you choose to notice a pattern rather than be carried away by it, you're supporting new ways of responding. This is part of what allows genuine transformation to take place. It happens where scientific insight and reflective practice meet. When awareness replaces automatic reaction, the shift isn't just conceptual, it's reflected in how your nervous system gradually reorganizes itself. Observing emotions instead of becoming fully identified with them isn't about detachment or suppression. It's a form of participation that creates space. Over time, this space makes it easier to return to steadier inner states, while older patterns lose some of their grip. Consistency matters here, not as pressure but as gentle repetition. Each conscious moment reinforces pathways that eventually become more natural and familiar. If this resonates, you're welcome to share "Science Meets Spirit" in the comments, not as a slogan, but as recognition of how these ideas can validate experiences you may already be having. Transformation doesn't need to be forced. It often unfolds naturally when you work with these principles. And as this understanding deepens, something even more subtle begins to emerge. You may start to see that the sense of I you've identified with, the collection of memories, roles, fears, beliefs, and protective habits is not wrong or broken. It's simply limited. The ego isn't an enemy, it's a structure that once helped you navigate the world, but it isn't the whole of who you are. From this place of gentler awareness, a simple question can begin to shift how you experience reality, opening the door to a deeper sense of presence and possibility. When anger shows up, you might gently ask yourself, who is experiencing this anger? When a thought passes through your mind, who is the one that notices it? There is the emotion, and there is the awareness of the emotion. There is the thought, and there is the consciousness that observes it. Exploring this difference isn't meant to be philosophical wordplay. It's an invitation to notice something subtle and real within your own experience. When these questions are approached with curiosity rather than force, something begins to shift. You start to sense an observing presence, a quiet awareness that exists beneath thoughts and emotions. From this perspective, feelings that once lingered for hours or days often soften more quickly. You're less caught in the storyline around them and more present with what's actually happening. Instead of being lost in the narrative of the ego, you begin to recognize yourself as the space in which all experiences arise and pass. This understanding becomes especially meaningful when life brings its inevitable emotional storms. No matter how much awareness you cultivate, emotions like fear, anger, and sadness will still appear from time to time. That isn't a sign of failure, it's part of being human. Growth isn't measured by avoiding these states, but by how you meet them when they arise. It's easy to feel centered when everything is going well. The deeper shift reveals itself in moments of intensity, when emotions feel strong, yet you're still able to stay connected to that witnessing awareness. Even then, something inside remains steady. This is where the practical value of this perspective becomes clear. When a strong emotion surfaces, perhaps anxiety around an important decision, you have a choice in how you relate to it. The familiar, automatic response is immediate identification. I am anxious. This feeling defines me right now. I need it to disappear. Approaching experience this way often adds pressure and resistance, making the emotion feel heavier and more persistent. From a gentler, observing perspective, another response becomes possible, one that allows the emotion to be present without needing to fight it or push it away. When we fully identify with an emotion, our awareness can narrow until it feels as though we are that emotion. In moments of anxiety, for example, our experience can become shaped entirely by that state. But there's another approach, one that takes practice, yet becomes more natural each time you choose it. You begin by simply noticing the anxiety as it arises and creating a small amount of space around it. You might gently say to yourself, "There is anxiety present right now." Notice how that feels. The emotion hasn't been denied or pushed away, but it also hasn't been allowed to define who you are. From there, an important shift becomes possible. You can meet the feeling with openness and ask, "What are you here to show me?" This question changes the inner dynamic. Instead of resisting yourself, you create cooperation within. Energy that was once tied up in tension begins to soften. One simple practice that can support this shift is conscious breathing. The breath naturally connects body and awareness. When you breathe slowly and intentionally while an emotion is present, you give it space to move rather than remain held or suppressed. If this resonates, you're welcome to write "I choose awareness" in the comments, not as a declaration of perfection, but as a reminder that this path is made of small, conscious choices in each moment. And if you've stayed with this reflection until now, that says something meaningful. Many people search for quick answers or instant fixes. You stayed because something here invited you to look more deeply. That willingness matters. If this perspective has shifted how you understand consciousness or inner change, consider gently supporting the channel by tapping the like button. Not for validation, but to help this kind of conversation reach others who may be looking for a deeper understanding beneath the surface promises. If you'd like to continue exploring, you're welcome to subscribe. This space is dedicated to exploring the meeting point between ancient insight and modern understanding, between awareness and practical application. Each video is created with the intention of offering something you can actually integrate into your life. And if this message felt timely for you, feel free to leave a comment saying, "This message was meant for me." I read every comment and appreciate hearing where people are in their own process of growth. There's another video available that builds on what we've explored here, offering practical ways to stay grounded in awareness even when life feels challenging. If you feel drawn, you can continue there. It may be a natural next step. Thank you for being here, for staying present, and for choosing awareness.